Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, Tactical Lich here, and welcome back to this one final battle between me and Last Mohican in this Best of 3 series on Coma White Tournament. In this battle, I'm going with the Tomb Kings, while Last Mohican going with the Empire instead. For the army builds, I'll be going with a front line of Skeleton Warriors, second line of Nekara Warriors providing a bit more anti-infantry bonus, and then further back a third line of Ushaptis, providing an armored and monstrous backbone to my rather flimsy skeletons. Leading the army, Arkan the Black, guarded closely by some Necropolis Knights here. Arkan the Black bringing a pretty full toolkit here. Spirit Leech, Fate of Bunam, Tomb Blade for Skeleton Summon, Staff of Nagash, and Liber Mortis. For the rest of the mobility here, more Necropolis Knight, a unit of Skeleton Horsemen guarding closely some Chosen of the Gods, Regiment of Renown Ushapti with great bows. On the far side there at the corner of the battlefield, Skeleton Horsemen, and that's it for my army pick. For the other side of the battlefield, Last Mohican subscribing to the Boris Supremacy Doctrine here, going with Boris Todbringer on the Griffin, though I don't think Boris is the best pick in this situation. Actually, Boris is fine, just don't bring Blood Roar, because the leadership debuff is very meaningless against the undead as they do not rout. I think Crush the Weak might still have an application because the undead infantry has really weak stats and are very prone to suffering from those melee stat debuffs. But other than that, we have a White Cloak of Ulrich to reduce enemy melee attack, which is quite nice, and Midden Line Runefang for healing of course, and Hold the Line to boost friendlies, leadership, and melee defense. Other than the front line of Spearmen with shields, there is a back line of a ton of mobility. Empire Knight, and more Knights on the other side. Some Knights of the Blazing Sun as well, providing that fire damage, which can be nice against certain Tomb King characters. And then a ton of Outriders. I don't really like this unit pick because of their lackluster accuracy, but they do have that sheer volume of fire, so it might be decent against the Tomb King's constructs, especially if they are big, giant constructs like Big Kitty Cats. Though I didn't bring that meta pick here, just some Necropolis Knights, which theoretically should do well against Empire Cavalry, so we shall see what happens here. Supporting Boris is a Bright Wizard on foot, with Burning Head to roast some Skeleton Infantry, and Flaming Sword of Ruin to boost that base weapon damage. And yeah, that's it for army picks. Now let's get the battle started. Alright, the final battle begins in this best of 3, and both armies are just going to push up against each other. Last Mohican maneuvering some of their forces on the flank there, probably trying to encircle my army. I'll just push straight up with my monstrous missile infantry, trying to get in range the Ushapti with great bows. Perhaps they can get some pot shots onto the enemy infantry formations, but here comes a cavalry charge. The Knights of Blazing Sun trying to hit up my flank there, but my Necropolis Knights are in position to counteract their charge. I even dropped the Fate of Buna, trying to work down their HP, but unfortunately for my spell casting, they do have some spell resistance, mitigating part of that spell damage. Though with the Necropolis Knights coming in, that was enough to finish the job, breaking the backs of these Knights of Blazing Sun, forcing Boris Todbringer to dive in for a charge. On the far side there, Empire Knights, seeing that the Necropolis Knights, Arkan himself, and some Ushaptis being pulled away from the right flank, they will be charging into the Skeleton Infantry front line there, trying to work down the HP of my chaff using that impact damage. On the other side there, the Empire troops are still holding back as both sides are paying more attention to this engagement. Boris trying to get out of the surround from the Necropolis Knight. He's taking some damage, but he is regenerating, so some of that damage has been mitigated. Now on the far side here, Outriders are unleashing shots onto the Chosen of the Gods, putting a minor dent on their HP bar. Before they take too much damage, I'll be retreating them behind the trees, making sure that they don't face the full wrath of those Empire Missile Cavalry, while the Skeleton Horsemen will be moving up onto the Empire's rear, just trying to catch these Outriders out of position. While in terms of the frontline engagement, Skeletons are clashing into State troops. Some of these Skeleton Warriors will be roasted. I would like to see the Burning Head being cast after all these Nekara Warriors and Skeleton Warriors commit to the front line. If there's a Burning Head right now down my front line, they will do a lot more damage to my now already engaged Skeleton Infantry. But either ways, I am committing whatever I can into the front line, dropping a Liber Mortis, helping these skeletons stay alive a little longer, while the Ushapti and the Necropolis Knights are all engaging in the front line as well, hunting down some of these Empire Knights, making them pay for what they did to my skeletons, and was hoping to maybe pin down Boris too, but Boris simply pushed through his own troops and get back to freedom. Now, the back there, Skeleton Horsemen managed to catch those Outriders, actually chasing down quite a few of them, so the Empire Knights will be forced to counter them and hopefully pin down my light mobility. But more Skeleton Horsemen are coming in. Ushaptis are also coming in with their armor-piercing attacks, so the Empire Knights are taking more and more damage, while in the front line for the state troops, they are in a long, grueling grind against the Skeleton Warriors, Nekara Warriors, basically all the skeletons. While the Necropolis Knights continue to repel the Empire Knights with their armor-piercing attacks, they are getting some really good engagements out here. Knights of the Blazing Sun and Empire Knights manage to catch these Chosen of the Gods, but there are some Necropolis Knights here making them pay for what they are doing to the Ushaptis, plus the Ushaptis having heavy armor. They don't really care about the non-armor piercing damage of all those Empire Cavalry. On the far side there, the Skeleton Horses are still somehow alive, being pressured by 2 Empire Knights, but they have managed to dispatch 1 unit of Outriders, the other 2 managed to get out alive, so the Skeleton Horses are probably not long for this world, being pinned down by 2 heavy cavalry. Now the Outriders are firing onto those Ushaptis, but unfortunately they don't have the biggest of hitbox, so a lot of those shots are, as you can see, missing their targets, missing their mark. So it is pretty much down to these Empire Cavalry cycle charging to hopefully work down some of these Tomb King's constructs. Boris himself also dropping into this blob here to help out the Knights of Blazing Sun and Empire Knights, who are under pressure from the enemy Ushaptis, as these Ushaptis are the summoned ones. I dumped right in the middle of these Empire Cavalry, hoping to pin down Boris and the Empire Knights, but unfortunately the Empire Knights and Knights of Blazing Sun managed to escape from that surround, but one Ushapti managed to block Boris inside this blob here, and allowing those Necropolis Knights to do a little bit more damage against this Empire Lord. As for the front line, I'm steadily gaining an advantage here with my constructs and infantry combo. The Nekara Warriors, with the help of some Liber Mortis and the Ushaptis, managed to clear out most, if not all, of the enemy state troops. These Ushaptis here, no infantry support as the Skeleton Warriors are fading away, but they do have enough armor to outgrind the enemy spears. And now the Nekara Warriors and the Necropolis Knights are free to keep the pressure onto the Outriders, making sure that they can't just sit there and shoot. While at the back there, Knights of Blazing Sun will be pushed back by the Necropolis Knights and the summoned Ushaptis here. The Knights of Blazing Sun suffered some heavy casualties, while the Necropolis Knights are virtually untouched. Same for the other Necropolis Knights on the other side. Really very healthy unit with still 20 models left, plus a ton of skeleton infantry supporting my army here. Things are looking quite well for the Tomb Kings. Another burning head onto my skeleton infantry here, burning the Nekara Warriors, but because of how scattered they are not actually taking much damage from this spell casting. The burning head, of course, continues on, barely missing those skeleton warriors who were indeed on the move. With my front line freed up, I can send some units back over here and reinforce the back line. Boris trying to go for a desperate Lord Snipe against Arcane the Black, and he does have enough mass and speed to push through the enemy infantry surround, but here comes the Necropolis Knights, closely guarding Arcane the Black. Knights of Blazing Sun here, having their eyes set onto Arcane the Black, charging against him, but Arcane the Black is on horseback indeed, and will be running away from the enemy pursuit, making sure that the enemies can't really pin him down. Constantly receiving support from the Necropolis Knights and nearby Ushaptis as well. Even if he gets caught, he can simply drop a skeleton summon, using them as meat shields, blocking hits for him and forcing the Knights of Blazing Sun to pull back unless they risk getting bogged down in a melee grind. The Chosen of the Gods are now safely standing back, opening fire, doing some pretty nasty damage against these tattered Knights of the Blazing Sun, and Boris Todbringer is also getting close to his heal cap. Although Spirit Leeches I am dumping onto him is slowly taking its toll. I did use a Fate of Buna in the early game, but at this point there is no point in spending more magics on Fate of Buna, so it is Spirit Leeches all the way onto Boris Todbringer, finishing off the Empire leadership. On the far side there, spears being cleared out by Nekara Warriors, and the Bright Wizard somehow is still on foot running around, not really being targeted by anything. Outriders being pushed all the way to the edges of the map by some dirt cheap skeleton horsemen and some Ushaptis as well, leaving pretty much Boris alone in this fight here, receiving another Spirit Leech, getting rather low in health. We'll be going into fast forward here as the battle is in pretty much its closing stage. Boris trying his best to go after Arkan, but every time he dives in, he is just pinned down and screened off with the Necropolis Knights and Spirit Leech together, taking away his remaining HP. And that shall be army losses as I managed to get a second win in this best of 3. GG to Last Mohican for this very fun best of 3. We have some very close games in the first 2 battles here, though it seems that the third battle, Last Mohican did get a defeat at the hands of the Outriders, not doing much throughout the battle. As you can see, occasionally the Outriders were trying to shoot, but then they were just constantly missing, and the rest of the time they were just constantly being pressured by multiple mobility units. The skeleton horses here, one of them getting some really solid value, trading upwards into the rather expensive Outriders, or they are just getting pursued by the Necropolis Knight, who also got some solid value, out trading any of those Empire heavy cavalry with poison attacks and their own armor piercing attacks as well, while they themselves, having heavy armor, don't really care for those non-armor piercing Empire Knights or Knights of the Blazing Sun. The Ushaptis did okay, not the most amazing performance, but most importantly, they are just there to provide some mass and anti-infantry bonus to hold back the enemy state troops and occasionally using their mass to pin down big targets like Boris or the enemy cavalry. As for the skeleton infantry, they suffered some pretty heavy casualties being burnt down by some burning head, but other than that, they did their job, screening off the enemy infantry, making sure the monsters and missiles can do their job. Arkan the Black here also getting solid value with the Fate of Buna and constant Spirit Leeches. As for the Empire here, Boris Todbringer unable to do too much damage since he is not the best of melee combatant. He's a good fighter for sure, don't get me wrong, but he just doesn't have the raw damage output as Karl Franz with his Galmaraz and Reichland Rune Fang. Bright Wizard did some okay damage against my skeleton infantry with the burning heads, but the rest of the state troops, they held on, just not able to carry the game. And the Empire Knights here, they can try fighting those constructs, but the armor piercing of the constructs will make short work of them, while they themselves will struggle to do damage against the heavily armored constructs. Outriders, we've already talked about them, so yeah, unfortunately the Empire army is just not quite equipped to fight the Tomb Kings in this battle. And yeah, that's it for today's battle and the end of this best of 3 between myself and Last Mohican. I hope you all enjoy this series of multiplayer battles. The Omens of Destruction DLC is coming out soon and we'll be covering some of its content in early access. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel for more Total Warhammer videos. That's gonna be it for today and thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Tactical Lich signing out.